Hare Krishna, Guru Prasad Prabhu. Over to you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to all of you, our online guests, to this Sunday evening program. We just witnessed Gaur Arati. Now on to the talk. Today we have our special guest speaker, His Grace Rasanath Prabhu. You might remember he had already appeared once as a guest speaker in our Sunday evening program. I would now request Yashika to make a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. Take it over, Yashika.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Once again, welcome to our Sunday Feast program. Today we have His Grace Rasanath Prabhuji here with us. He graduated in engineering from IIT Mumbai, and through campus recruitment, he started consulting at the company Deloitte in USA. Later, he obtained his MBA from Cornell University and worked as an investment banker for the Bank of America in Wall Street, New York. He's also served at the Bhakti Center in Manhattan for 8 years, and he's a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Now, along with 3 of his colleagues, he runs a consulting firm in New York City. And the focus of his firm is the use of the principles of the Bhagavad Gita in management and leadership development discipline. So once again, I'd like to welcome His Grace Rasanath Prabhuji and hand it over to him. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharane. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Very grateful and happy to be here amongst all of you today. I was asking Guru Prasad Prabhu if he had any topic in mind for me to share something on, and he said that this is the week of Gita Jayanti, that the Gita was spoken on, I think it's coming on the 25th. And so he just told me to speak on the Bhagavad Gita. And so that, somebody tells you just speak on the Bhagavad Gita, it's a kind of difficult because there's so many topics that you can choose from, and I was left a little confused. But I decided to pick a theme, and hopefully this will be in some way or form beneficial to all of you. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will keep this as interactive as possible. I would love to hear from as many people as possible today. And the primary reason for that is when we engage our own minds and hearts in the words of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, the nature of the conversation that we have is enhanced because of our own participation in it. The Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful verse that Maitreya Muni is telling Vidura how the Shastra needs to be understood through one's own endeavor, or I should say one's own endeavor is a very important component in understanding the inner meaning of the Shastra. He says the words used are swacheshtita. Swacheshtita, cheshta means effort, and swacheshtita means one's own effort. And Maitreya Muni says how when one approaches the scripture and regularly, shrunvantaha shraddhaya nityam grinatascha swacheshtitam, says kalena na ati dirgena bhagavan vishate hridi. He says that when one approaches the Shastra with regularity and one puts one's own effort, meaning one's mind, intelligence, and all the skills that one has been given to understand the words of the self-realized souls and the words of Krishna, then Maitreya Muni's conclusion is that Kalena na ati dirgena Bhagavan Vishate Hriti, that very soon the Supreme Personality of Godhead gets established in one's heart. And this is also a commonplace experience, that when we approach Shastra, where we are involved in it actively, then we actually begin to experience the presence of Krishna. We can contact the Super Soul in that experience. Many times we become so used to listening, where we are more passive and not necessarily participatory, where yes, there is a speaker speaking, but we can so easily just be in our own minds without necessarily fully participating in the scripture, and we lose the opportunity to contact Krishna that way. So my humble request of you is, please participate, because that way Krishna's presence will be felt. And we are going to make this as interactive as we can. And I would love for all of you to share your realizations as they come to you, as we read the words of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. Hare Krishna, Surendra Prabhu, I can see you now. There you go. So we are going to be reading from chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. And we hopefully will go through 3 or 4 verses, because the Gita has so many different themes that one can pick. I landed on chapter 12 because chapter 12 is the smallest chapter of the Gita. Does anyone know how many verses chapter 12 has? Without
20.
20. Okay, who said that?
Mandala Ram.
Hare Krishna Mandala. Very well. So yes, 20 verses in chapter 12. It is the smallest chapter, but every single verse in chapter 12 is, and of course, every single verse in the Gita you can say is incredibly profound. In chapter 12, the essence of everything that Krishna is saying is laid out. The name of the chapter is
Devotional service.
Devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. That's right. Devotional service. And in this chapter, Krishna is answering a question of Arjuna. And Arjuna's question, very comprehensively, Arjuna is asking Krishna the question. So which one is better? Can anyone share what is Arjuna's question at the beginning of chapter 12?
I mean, he's asking comparison between the personalist and impersonalist, and what is good and bad, and then starts from there. Right?
Okay. So Arjuna's question is very direct, and his question is, which of the two are more perfect? Right? Saying which are considered to be the more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. Evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam pariyupasate yachapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. So the words yoga vittama, so yoga vittama means, so we know the word vit, right? We know the meaning of the word Veda, means body of knowledge. Vit means to know, right? So yoga vittama means one who knows most perfectly, or Prabhupada translates it as the most perfect in knowledge of yoga. So Arjuna is asking, well, who is more perfect in knowledge of yoga? Those who worship the impersonal Brahman, or those who are properly engaged in your devotional service? And so the entire chapter is Krishna answering this question of Arjuna. And at a certain point in time in the chapter, Krishna basically, towards the end of the chapter, you can see how Krishna loses himself in his own devotees. That he outlines specific qualities of the person who is constantly engaged in devotional service and how dear that person is to Krishna. But before we get there, there's a set of verses that Krishna lays out so beautifully, where he is offering the opportunity for everyone to participate in devotional service. And the reason why I personally find these set of verses so inspiring is because many times in our own life, and in my own profession, my work, our primary aim is to try and bring people as close to Krishna as possible. And as a devotee and as a follower of Srila Prabhupada, I think I feel that is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm looking to do all the time, every time, and I get a chance to interact with someone, is how can I bring this person close to Krishna? And that was Srila Prabhupada's mood too. In fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the story of the Prachetas glorify Krishna as, they call him Haraye Hari Medase. And Prabhupada translates that so beautifully. He translates that as one who is constantly thinking of how to bring the living entities back to him. So this is Krishna's preoccupation. Krishna is just constantly thinking about, well, how can I attract the living entities back to me? And so we see in our parampara, in our tradition, and in other Vaishnava traditions too, when an acharya comes to teach and live the example of pure devotional service, their heart is essentially the same heart as Krishna. How do I attract? How do I bring the living entities closer to Krishna? So we are amazingly fortunate to have obtained, I would say, that burden, that responsibility of one, really making ourselves qualified to go back to Krishna, really making ourselves qualified to attract Krishna's mercy. And at the same time, as we have received the mercy of other teachers, other acharyas, how can we, in our own small and yet important and innovative ways, really bring other people closer to Krishna? So Krishna in chapter 12 in Bhakti Yoga, and this is interesting that in the chapter of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is actually laying out all the different ways in which one can approach him, right? It's almost like he creates a ladder structure for people to be able to approach him and engage in devotional service, which is what makes it so, this chapter actually shows Krishna's magnanimity. And then it also offers us devotees the opportunity to, again, be creative and innovative, to see how we can engage people in those options that Krishna is giving in this chapter. So I would like to start reading from verse number 8 of chapter 12. And Krishna, starting from verse number 8, is explaining how people can approach him. And there is definitely a gradation here. He starts from what is the best way to approach him. And I wouldn't necessarily say what is the worst way to approach him, because that's not the point. But what Krishna is actually saying is, yes, there is a gradation here, but anyone who is actually connected in any of these ways eventually will actually get to the best, right? So we will start reading from, I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Yes, no, yes, okay, yes. Thank you. Great, so in text 8, Krishna is saying, Mayeva mana adatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivashishyasi mayeva ata urdvam na samshayaha. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always without a doubt. Okay. And Srila Prabhupada's purport. I'm going to read Prabhupada's purport, and I would love for all of us to pay attention to the translation and the purport, because how we're going to do this is we're going to read the purport, and then I will request the devotees to share what struck them from this purport. The entire chain of purports here are going to be really amazing, because to me, this also reveals the heart of Srila Prabhupada and what he was trying to do through the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, and what is the burden that he has left us, the debt that we are carrying in his service. So the purport. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and in other Vedic literatures. So going back to how I started today's talk, quoting the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam between Maitreya Muni and Vidura, I would love to now turn it over to every one of you, and please share what struck you from this verse and this purport.
Just the first sentence
Anyone?
for me was that that one who's engaged in Krishna's service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, and they have a transcendental position from the very beginning.
And why did that strike you so much?
Because it's interesting that right from the beginning of devotional service, that one has a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, which is quite something amazing. Most people think that it's impossible to see God, or what to speak of have a relationship with Him.
Right.
And the devotees have an experience when they're even in the beginning of devotional service that they feel there is some tangible experience of getting in touch with the divine through the process of devotional service. And I'm sure most devotees have experienced some sort of experience like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Prabhupada uses the word direct twice in the purport. As you said, was that Mandala Prabhu? Were you the one who spoke right now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good. Okay. So as you shared, yes, direct relationship with Krishna, and then Krishna also says later on in the same purport, Prabhupada writes, how when he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. So each time we are having prasadam, and in the chat said, Hare Krishna, for me, it is the relationship that we can establish with Krishna through concrete actions, chanting, offering, etc. That's true. We can directly establish this relationship with Krishna, and then we are Krishnaized in the process. Prabhupada uses the word Krishnaized very directly to say that the devotee actually attains the same quality as Krishna by eating the remnants that are being offered to Krishna. Very good. Thank you. Anything else that struck anyone in this purport?
Hi, my name is Vasanti. Sorry. Hi,
Sorry.
can you hear me?
Yes, I
My
can
name
hear
is
you.
Vasanti and I'm from Ottawa.
Ottawa.
What struck me was the holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different,
Okay.
which is like really amazing. It's like, they move on and they say that, internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. That impressed me. Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because even when you say the name of Krishna, which I have seen in my personal life, I'm a newer devotee, and I've seen in my personal life, I have a peacock feather in my house, and when I'm really stressed out and I don't know what to do, even the thought of the peacock feather, which I relate to Lord Krishna, it brings me immense peace. And I'm not like many people in the Ottawa Hare Krishna committee, like Guru Prasad sir and, Mandala and all those guys. But still, even for me, it's so beautiful. Even the thought of that peacock feather, which, it brings me so much relief. Like, it's like he's there, he'll take care of me, kind of.
Wonderful.
So that's amazing. Yeah. Thanks.
It's so, Krishna is so accessible that even the thought of Krishna actually removes material suffering. That's such a, thank you for sharing that, because as you said, that some of us have just spent too much time around Krishna that we many times forget that Krishna is so directly present in our lives. So it's a very good reminder for us who have been practicing for a while that yeah, as soon as you think about Krishna, genuinely, sincerely think about Krishna, Krishna is directly present.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hare
Anybody
Krishna,
else?
actually I started to say the same thing, but then when Vasanti came up, I said, let her complete. So I had the same thought in my mind.
You're kind, Guru Prasad ji.
I had the same thought in my mind. And as Mandala Prabhu so nicely was explaining the first sentence, and you were also clarifying, making additional thing, I said, how do you get there? The very first thing is to chant Hare Krishna, because without chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which actually purifies, our, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that's how the Sikshashtakam puts it. So without internally being purified by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, it's wonderful to have this direct relationship with Krishna, as the purport says, but without chanting, it's difficult to get there. So that's what struck me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it reminds us of the question that Mahaprabhu was asked, in the, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, amongst the 9 processes of devotional service, which one do you consider to be the topmost? And Mahaprabhu very comprehensively, unequivocally, instantly says it's chanting of the holy names. And the reason for one of the reasons for that is because Krishna makes himself so easily accessible through his holy name. We don't need any facility for it. If you have to read a book or hear someone, there are so many dependencies, but for chanting, it's so incredible that we can even chant in our minds. Right? It's like no one can touch that. No circumstance, no situation. Electricity is out. There is no internet. We may not be able to hear. Sometimes we may not be able to read, either because of age or because there are certain facilities that are not available. But chanting is so incredibly powerful that there are no facilities required for it. Right? Krishna is so accessible in his name so quickly. And not just that, but anyone who hears the name, even if they are not deliberately hearing the name, are getting the benefit of Krishna entering them directly. Right? So yes, thank you. The holy name is the mercy. Rupa Goswami in I think it's Padyavali. I'm not sure which text it is, but Rupa Goswami actually says that both Krishna and Krishna's holy name are extremely merciful. But he says amongst the two, the holy name is more merciful because the holy name has decided to stay in the material world. Right? And that is how Krishna is very directly present with us in the name. Thank you. Anything else in this verse that struck you?
Hare Krishna, Rasanath Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what is the most important thing which Srila Prabhupada just said, that how to approach Krishna, and he will be always with you and dancing on your tongue. But what is the most important point he made later on is the other side of it, that one who does not do the above things mentioned in 4 lines, he cannot understand. And he says that even though basically Bhagavad Gita might be lying next to him somewhere near in the Almirah, or he might be sleeping close to him, but he will not understand. And I remember, if I can recollect very well, it was in one of the lecture, he says that 2 ways basically. One is that there is no one to tell you. You have a Gita, you're looking all around, you're trying to find and understand Gita on your own, but you are not able to get it because there is no teacher to let you know, and then you cannot understand. And then you start into unnecessary argument. Why deity worship, why this and why that? That is one aspect. And another one is that you are not engaged in the devotional service. That's why you cannot understand.
Very
2,
true.
I understood. I heard somewhere in the lecture.
Very, very, very good. It's that's why you can see in this purport, it's a short purport, but every line here is just so profound. Right? Thank you again for saying that. It's interesting to note how Prabhupada focuses the process of devotional service in this chapter, in this specific purport. There's a verse that Rupa Goswami writes in the Upadesha, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na Bhaver Grahyam Indriyai Seva Unmukhehi Jivhadau Swayameva Spuratyataha. So the tongue, Sevun Mukhehi Jivhadau. So the tongue, so the reason why Rupa Goswami actually uses the tongue and then says Adi for the other senses is because the tongue is the most prominent. And this is also what we say during prasadam prayers every day. And if you recite the prasadam prayers, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he talks about how all the indriyas, all the senses are jada. They're like, we have this material body. The indriyas are constantly capturing us in different ways. And amongst them, he says, the tongue is the most voracious. And then he goes on to say that, but you, Krishna, have entered our lives through this prasad. But to your point, Surendra Prabhu, right at the start of the prasadam prayers, it is said, Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. Right? We recite this every. Can anyone share what that means? And that is actually coming from the Quran, actually.
I think it comes from somewhere in Mahabharata.
Oh, it's a Mahabharata?
That is what I have heard multiple places. I could be wrong also. But the Mahaprasada Govinda verse, since I have heard, probably first time I learned the exact translation. Well, translation is pretty much similar to normal Hindi language, but when I understood the meaning somewhere in Atlanta, I don't remember who said that first time. He said, it's very simple actually. A person who does not have a faith in Mahaprasade, another point we have to notice here is that everything is like the utmost respect to these 4 things they have paid in this verse. Mahaprasade, then he says Govinde, then Namo Brahmane, then Vaishnave, all 4. That further tells is that there's nothing about these 4 actually. And another thing is, he did not mention, he mentioned here Vaishnava. There is no Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra here. So this means that basically eternally everybody is Vaishnava. That is what I understand from this, and this is what I have heard. And
Okay.
anyone who doesn't understand, anyone who does not have faith in these four things, Salpa Punya, Mahaprasad Govinda No Brahmana Vaishnava, Salpa Punya Vratam Rajan, Vishwas Hone Vajayat. He will never have faith in this, and whatever punya he has will also be basically, if he doesn't have a punya, he just cannot understand these four.
Understand it. That's it. That's exactly it. So when you were saying one who does not engage in such service cannot understand this, cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures. So even to understand the glories of the holy name, one requires a certain amount of piety. And yet, that's not the pre-qualification. So one may not understand how it works. But this is the beauty, it still works. So even if one may not have faith in the holy name, or one may not understand how the holy name is actually working, but if that person also accidentally somehow either comes in contact with the Vaishnava and appreciates the Vaishnava, or somehow hears the holy name and repeats it or recites it, that person starts to build the piety to understand. So again, to highlight how merciful Krishna's holy name and the Vaishnava are, that they actually eventually create the pathway for the living entity to return back to Krishna.
Yeah, it comes both from Mahabharata and Skanda Puran, so two places probably.
Okay.
I just did some search, so I know Mahabharata is the one I always hear. It looks like me.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Good, okay, so we'll proceed to the next verse. We'll see what Krishna is saying in the next verse. Krishna says, Atachitta samadatum na shaknoshi mai stiram abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. In this verse, two different processes of Bhakti Yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified. And in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there is no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. Now, the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be received. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow. and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga, under the rules and regulations, with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. Okay, so anything that struck you from this purport?
I don't want to be saying all the time without giving opportunity for others. So I will wait for a little while and then try to say something. For me, it actually opens up opportunity for everyone, because most of us are in the second category. So therefore, anyone can come to the platform of love of Godhead, and the process is very clearly delineated in this purport. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anything else?
One thing which, regardless of what stage we are, we must take that thing very seriously, is that Bhakti Yoga is a purification of senses. So,
right,
because we enter into the system with the intention, which is the most initial intention, is to purify ourselves, basically, to attain few things.
right.
And this is the line which is written here, is the purification of the senses. So
Purification of the senses.
if we have that in our mind all the time, we will never deviate from the path.
Very, very nice. So bhakti is the means in the end, right? That's what we hear so much, that the performance of bhakti is the means and the end in of itself. And even in the conditioned stage, we actually see that the way to render pure devotional service. What is the definition of pure devotional service? Anyone? Yes, Surendra Prabhu.
Oh.
Bhakti Shastri. Bhakti Shastri.
It is very complicated, but I can just give you that one which is free from all the material desires, philosophical speculation, fruitive activity, like jnana karma anyabhilashita shunyam.
Anyabhilashita shunyam, right?
That is the worst. In my layman's term, I can say that.
No, it's
from
true.
all that. But in a village language, if I have to say this is a very high philosophy and beyond my understanding and reach what you just said, but in a village language, if your life is very simple, I mean not simple, very simple, and you have put me here, and I want to take this opportunity and want to tell you something which will take 2 to 3 minutes about this simplicity. If remember, and I will take 3-4 minutes, but it is relevant here, what actually this simplicity means. If you remember, some of my age and a little bit younger folks and older, of course older, there was a movie in India. The name of the movie was, I forgot, it's a Sujita, Sujata, Sanjog, I don't remember. And in that movie, there was a song. That song name was Dal Roti Khao, Prabhu Ke Gun Gao. Thode mein kaam chalao, something like that, and Mauj Manao, something like that. So I was just reading that song and thinking about it. And then I forgot the name of the composer who made this song. But the point in that song was, and movie is relevance is, it talks about simplicity. When that song was composed, India probably had the best quality of milk with no adulteration, very easy to find, best quality of ghee, best quality of mawa, best quality of sugar, which is even today, in my standard, I do see that. All those things were available. The oil is coming from traditional method. Everything was top class. But why the singer chose not that samosa kachori khao or kheer puri khao or halwa puri khao and mauj manao? Why he chose dal roti khao and Prabhu ke gun gao? Because you cannot sing Prabhu's glories without simplicity. You can only sing Prabhu's glories by simplicity, and that is dal roti. Dal, we all know what is dal, and we all know what is roti. So, I mean, if we understand this simplicity, that is our bhakti, basically, and we will be able to approach Lord very easily. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope I did not bore anyone.
No, it's definitely a very important point about keeping our lives very simple, so that we can serve Krishna undistracted. And even with that desire, our lives actually get complicated. Because the mind is not simple, and also because we live in a social structure where there are so many dependencies. So in fact, to live a simple life takes a lot more effort. Just like how organic food costs more, it has to cost less because it's organic. We have reached a stage where if we have to live a simple life, we have to work much harder to live a simpler life. But it's true. So Bhakti Yoga, the idea of Bhakti Yoga, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur says something very interesting in reference to this definition of pure Bhakti. He says that the pure Bhakti actually starts when one actually exclusively desires it. What does that mean? Right. So when he says Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, he just says that those are the two most important words in that phrase. And yeah, Anne is again saying, to answer your question, what is devotional service? For me, it is serving Krishna with a loving, tender, and joyful heart. Very, very true. That's loving, tender, and joyful heart. That's the most important ingredient in serving Krishna. And then there is also something else. It's constantly wanting to serve Krishna with loving, tender, and joyful heart. Now we may not find ourselves being able to engage in that way, but the desire to engage in that way has arisen. That is also very, very important to understand here. So if you see this verse, the translation of this verse, Krishna concludes this verse by saying, in this way, develop a desire to attain me. So the practice of Bhakti Yoga is developing the desire to attain Krishna. So, and when one comes to that stage, when one desires pure devotional service, then one begins pure devotional service. That is the meaning of Anya Abhilashita Shunyam according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's the exclusive desire only to serve Krishna. So that itself is pretty high. And that's why Prabhupada is saying here that there are two reasons. It's beautiful. Prabhupada says that there are two different processes of Bhakti Yoga are indicated in this verse. What do you think are the two different processes indicated in this verse? Prabhupada says the first applies to the one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for Krishna. So that is the difference. The difference is one who has developed an attachment of Krishna only desires service to Krishna exclusively. That's it. And the other is still not there. So this is the difference between Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And both are regulative. Right? Both are regulative. in the sense that there is a measured way in which both those devotional services are approached. But Vaidhi is actually for the sake of still developing attachment for Krishna. When we are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, until all the anarthas, that's why the Prabhupada spends so much time on the purification of the senses, the purification of the heart. Because until the heart is fully pure, if the heart is not fully purified, then we won't even desire pure devotional service. Right? So what is the 10th offense against the holy name? Anyone?
To be inattentive,
Inattentive. Yeah.
What's that?
to be inattentive during chanting.
That is quote unquote 11th. that basically contains all the 10. But what is the 10th offense?
Oh, okay, maintaining material attachment even after hearing so much about
Okay, to maintain
how
material
it should be
desires.
chanted.
Yeah, to maintain material desires even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. Somebody else had something. Were you going to say the same thing? Somebody else? Okay, good. Okay, so to maintain material desires, to maintain material desires, in spite of understanding so many different instructions in this matter, right? So what does that mean? Does that mean, is it indicating having material desires? What's the difference between having material desires and maintaining material desires? Any thoughts? Please, I want more
If you
people to
maintain material desire,
participate.
it's very difficult process. If you have one,
What's
you can
that?
probably get rid of
Yeah.
it. But if you maintain it, it's going to be difficult to get rid of it.
Okay, okay, good. Anything else? What is the difference between having material desires and maintaining material desires?
I think having means you want to have more one after another and it never ends.
Okay.
And maintaining means maybe those are essential. Some of them may be important to live, to maintain the body and
Okay.
belief.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I think the difference. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I forgot one.
Okay. I think the difference between having and maintaining is having is it comes to you, like you have this material desire. Whereas maintaining is like you're stuck to maintaining the desire. I don't know. That's my interpretation.
That's good.
Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Anybody?
having material desires, we're bombarded by material desires day long. But maintaining them is aspiring to have them, even though God doesn't want us to have them.
Okay.
And running against the wind, you know?
Yeah, yeah, very good. Excellent. Excellent. So this offense to the holy name is very specific. It actually says maintaining material desires. And so what maintaining material desires is, it's it's telling Krishna, actually I don't want this, but don't take it away immediately from me, please. I know you don't like this, but I like it. So give me some time where I can enjoy it. And in 20 years, then we can have this conversation again. Let's take a checkpoint. That's the difference between having material desires and maintaining material desires. So yes, having material desires is, I have this, Krishna, I don't know what to do with it. And you alone, please help me actually overcome it because I don't want to have it. That's the thing, to be able to actually say, Krishna, I don't want this. I know it's there. I know it's plaguing me, but I don't want it. I really want to get rid of it. Maintaining material desires is like, kind of like it. I don't, as soon as I hear classes about this particular material desire, I kind of feel awkward. I feel the class is too heavy. Yeah, so we are selective about And that's the thing, that we are selective about what we want to preserve in our service to Krishna. Krishna, this part is mine. Please don't invade this space. Okay?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Is it okay to not want to have material desires?
Not want to have. Yeah, that's again, that's a very, very good beginning. That's a very, very good start.
Or not want to have material desires?
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah, and you can have endless amounts of wants. But the idea there is, as soon as you say, Krishna, I don't want these material desires. I want a fully cultivated desire where I can tell you, Krishna, I don't want any of this. But this sincerity with which we actually say it. Because ultimately there is only one thing that Rupa Goswami says that we need to attract Krishna's attention, and that is eagerness. It's Laulyam, right? And so the really strong desire to not have other desires that are coming in the way of Krishna's service. Right? That when we have that, when we attain that, that's when we start. Even in Sadhana Bhakti stage, that's when we start the devotional service. That's pretty powerful. That really pleases Krishna's heart in a very big way if we can pray in that place. And so the purification of the heart that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here so explicitly in the practice of Vaidisha Sadhana Bhakti is to get to a place where we no longer want to maintain our material desires. And that doesn't mean we are not doing what is necessary. See, that's the thing. It doesn't mean that we are basically artificially renouncing. What it means is that we are actually sincerely praying, Krishna, please give me the realization and the purity and the understanding by which I no longer have to invest in it the same way. Because it's taking away too much of my time and energy and attention. And it's not, again, about physical time, it's emotional time, it's space, it's mental space. It's what we are preoccupied thinking about. That's why Prabhupada also says it's not a problem if you're going to work and that work is directly connected with Krishna. The challenge with many of us going to work, including myself, I can say this, is when we go in, there are so many other things that accompany us. Right? So it's, again, getting to that place where we desire nothing but exclusive service to Krishna. And it's a very important thing. Sometimes we may think about that as, oh, this is not practical, because our understanding of practicality is the satisfaction of material desires. It's a very subtle thing. Oh, this is not practical because, yeah, what do I do? The idea here is, yes, we have material desires. And we want to get beyond them. And we have to develop the strength to pray exclusively for Krishna's service. And when we come close to praying that way, you know why this is so practical is because when we come close to praying that way, we will be confronted. Because when we come close to praying that way, we will see, oh my gosh, I can't. It's hard. And in that experience of, oh my God, this is hard, there is the development of humility. And when we realize, oh wow, I am actually so far away, our prayer becomes so much more sincere. Because we do recognize the distance. Right? That's why when Mahaprabhu is playing Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishi. The idea here is that even though you've invested all your energy in your holy names, I'm so unfortunate that I have no taste for this. That prayer is actually the acknowledgement of the distance. And in the acknowledgement of the distance, then comes Trinadapi Sunichana, then comes the humility. So, which is why we have to go closer and closer as possible to this prayer of Krishna, please, I only want to serve you, and I do not want any of these material desires. Because even if we are trying to pray that way, we will recognize our distance. And then we can try to pray like that. And then we can try to pray like that. And that is where the purification of heart actually happens. It's in that sincerity of prayer. It comes from our full heart. And this is the other thing with the holy name. In my own limited experience, I've heard other devotees talk about this too, that Krishna doesn't take it away until we make the choice. What the holy name does is it reveals our anarthas. It sheds a light on our anarthas. It sheds a light on desires that come in the way of pure devotion service. But we have to make a choice. Because Krishna will not take it away until we choose. Because Krishna never wants to control our free will. So that is the purification of the heart. Kamalochana Prabhu. Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, please.
Hare Krishna.
Kamalochana Prabhu, would you want to share something with us?
No, Prabhu, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Harinama Amrita Prabhu.
Yeah, one question to ask you. This is long waiting in my body. Now
Okay.
the heart has to be purified, the third paragraph. Now the heart has to be purified with the material association. And the dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. Now we are in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, we have got dualities plenty. How do I achieve this?
So when you say, how do I achieve this, meaning how do you
heart has to be purified.
Right. How do you achieve a pure heart? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. How to achieve.
Okay. So to me, the simplest starting point is the desire, right? The desire to purify the heart, the strong desire to purify the heart. And it may not happen overnight, but this is the thing. When we have made a decision, that Krishna, actually, I want to make this my last life. And when we make a decision, there is a certain gravity and focus that comes in our spiritual life that is extremely strong. And it becomes very consistent. Our prayer becomes very consistent. That kind of desire is what I'm talking about. I want this to be my last life. Right? And we've made that decision. Then what happens is we choose to spend time associating with people who have that purity. To me, that is the only way that we will, one, also build a desire to become more pure, but also get that purity, is through that Sangha.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I was just, as you were discussing this, we were reading a few days ago, some verses from the Bhagavatam. And there was one devotee who was asking Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, is it possible for one person to be part demon and part devotee in the same person, right? And, we're speaking about dualities, right? So how, we have this internal struggle of material desires and we have spiritual desires and whatnot. So I thought it was somewhat relevant. And Prabhupada says, if he's a devotee, he is not a demon at all. He says, if he is devotee. He says, so then the devotee asks, but he may have some demoniac qualities? ? And Prabhupada says, yes, that if he is seriously devotee, the demoniac qualities will disappear very soon. He says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma api sachu duracharo. And that verse, and he says, just like electric fan is moving and you make the switch off, still you will find it is moving, but that movement will stop very soon because if the switch is off. Similarly, a devotee if it is sometimes found that he is demoniac, demonic, if he is sincerely a devotee, that demonic qualities will go very soon.
So good. Thank you. Thank you. And those two verses, api chetasu duracharo bhajante mam ananya bhaksa sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. Prabhupada translates it as rightly situated in determination. Right? And it's such a beautiful translation. Rightly situated in determination is, Krishna, I only want pure devotional service. That's it. And while other qualities may still linger, that is the switch. When we have made that decision, that all I want is pure devotional service. The rest of it will kshipram bhavati dharmatma. Shashvat shantim nigachati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakti pranashyati. The next verse after that, Krishna is saying that person will become a dharmatma very soon. So Harinamamrita Prabhu, to answer your question, one is we have to have a strong desire. And that desire is then fanned very effectively by the association of devotees who also have a strong desire and who have done more work than us. And those two things, if we can really do those, and only those two things, everything else will follow.
Hi, my name is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
I think the next stanza where they say follow the regulative principle. If we don't know anything where to start, or if we don't know how to achieve, I literally related myself to this para where one should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, offer prayers, collect flowers, cook food stuff, and I fortunately got to know about the Ottawa Krishna ISKCON Center, and Mandala Ramdas, he gave me the book Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and with that I started my routine to wake up early, like literally 4 a.m., 5 a.m., take cold bath, and this was in winter, and like just dedicate my first 2 hours in the morning to read Bhagavad Gita, every stanza, and just I was like getting stuck for each and every word. I'm like, oh, in the beginning, whenever I was reading, I was like, oh my God, I've done so many mistakes in my life. So that was the initial struggle to accept what Gita is telling. And then for the entire year, I could say, there were many times that I was falling back, and trying to, and I'm still struggling to rise again, get to that zone where I don't have any material cravings. So like I feel like there was a time when I was not in the COVID period. I was not at all feeling to eat anything. I for the entire time I did not order anything outside food, or I did not eat outside at all. So I did not have any cravings. So now I feel like if I feel like eating outside, then I'm like, oh, I'm falling back. I'm getting that craving back. Oh, I should not get that. So I have that guilt. So if I, wake up late anytime, I feel like, oh no, I'm coming out of the zone. Like it's always alarming. I feel so much guilty of it because this stanza is like so hard hitting. If I don't do these 3 lines, I know I'm falling back. So because yeah, so again, I'm trying to start from tomorrow. I hope like this has inspired me, this session. Yeah, I'm gonna start these 3 lines. I'm going to start from tomorrow.
Thank you. That's Prabhupada. It's you see how Prabhupada is so. There is no compromise in Srila Prabhupada's purpose. It's like it's so clear and repeated. And the reason why he repeats it so many times is because there is no place to the repetition is necessary for the mind to fully take it in. And at the same time, Prabhupada doesn't really give us a chance to escape.
Yes, no escape.
Manas. Good. Okay, so we'll very quickly read one more purport. Do we have time, Guru Prasad Prabhu, or are we late already? Are we over time already?
I think we can go for another 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay, okay. Very good. So we'll read one more purport. I really love this purport because it's Prabhupada's genius and how beautifully he writes in this. So the next one, Prabhupada's, this is verse number 10. Abhyase apya samartosi matkarma paramo bhava madartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfection stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness and they require help. So, even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love of God, whereupon one becomes perfect. So anything that struck you in the last 5 minutes? I think this purport is amazing.
For me personally, like I have to be honest, I think the lady who just spoke before, just now, Sheila, I think,
Yeah.
she was talking about how she's trying to get up early in the morning at 4 and stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think that's impossible at the stage I am at.
Sure.
I sleep late thanks to my working from home schedule, and I was feeling so guilty. Yes, I did buy stuff from outside and eat, but this gives me some hope that yes,
Right.
there is another way. I mean, I'm a beginner, and like Sheila was saying, I also drop off, like, fall back, and then I'm trying. Oh, I'm trying to get back. So, so there are what struck me is there are many ways to attain Krishna.
Yeah. And that's exactly, that's the beauty of the way Krishna is approaching this entire thing. Is he's giving us the lowest rung to actually say, okay, get back on the bandwagon, get back on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he is actually offering so many different avenues. And in this case, Prabhupada writes such a beautiful purport. It says, the propagation of Krishna consciousness requires land, capital, organization, labor. And in Prabhupada's own life, the way he dealt with so many people who were not able to, what is the biggest example that comes to mind that fits this purport? Anyone?
I think Sudama, I don't know, but that's
Sudama?
more friendship, I think. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe I was not very clear in the statement that I made. From Srila Prabhupada's life and the propagation of Krishna consciousness, there is at least one very strong example that comes to mind when we read this purport.
Srila Prabhupada
really emphasize on book distribution. So he specifies here that one can, build a temple, an office, or they can help with publications through expanding the philosophy of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Now, who was one person who helped Srila Prabhupada with publications in a big way? Who, quote unquote, never became a temple devotee?
George Harrison?
George Harrison. Excellent. Right. And it's such a shining example. But what happened with George Harrison's life? I mean, we can see how many people came to Krishna consciousness because of what he did. Now, he did not necessarily become, as one would say, a temple devotee. But Prabhupada, during his final pastime of disappearing from this material world, from our sight, Prabhupada remembered George Harrison, right? And he gave his own ring to George. This George Harrison helped tremendously. Look at all the things that he did. Land. You can see he gave the Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, right? Capital. How did he contribute to capital?
He sponsored
book
the
was
Krishna
published by
book.
the donation he gave.
What's that? Sorry.
Krishna book publication.
Krishna book publication. That's right. He gave the first donation towards Krishna book. Right. And he also wrote the preface, the introduction to the Krishna book is in George Harrison's own words. And George was he used his fame. He made so many recordings. Like George Harrison's footprint in ISKCON is just like, it's there every single day. And yet you see someone who never really truly chanted 16 rounds, followed the regulative principles, but had found such a special place in Srila Prabhupada's heart because of what he did to help propagation of Krishna consciousness. So this purport specifically is so, and Prabhupada dealt with so many people that way who were very instrumental in contributing to propagation of Krishna consciousness, but maybe didn't have, because of where they were in their own journey, probably didn't have the capacity at that stage to engage in, as you would call, temple life, strict devotional service, going to the temple at 4 a.m. in the morning, but who did immense service to bring so many living entities to Krishna. And Krishna says, and Prabhupada's last line is so beautiful, it says, this voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love of God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Right? So what's important for us to also understand here is that while Krishna is talking about these different stages, we may not necessarily belong fully to one stage. There are parts of our life where we are able to follow regulative principles, and there are parts of our life where we are not able to. But the idea here is that if we are not able to do certain things, then let's look at this list and see what else can we do to be able to connect it to Krishna, to be able to connect our lives to Krishna. And even as practicing devotees, even for so many of us who have taken initiation, who chant 16 rounds, there are aspects of our life that are still probably not directly connected to Krishna, and may also be where the regulative principles, as Prabhupada says it, meaning rising early, chanting, waking up at 4 a.m., going to the temple, we may not be able to follow it. But then we can try to see what else can we do to be able to connect to Krishna, so that eventually we can completely fix our minds and hearts to the Supreme Lord. So we only covered 3 verses. I felt that these verses were very They have impacted my own life and my outreach activities and my understanding of Srila Prabhupada in a very big way. So I just wanted to share that from the Gita. This to me is it's one of my favorite sections from the Bhagavad Gita. So I deeply appreciate the opportunity of being with all of you today, this week.
Hare Krishna. Maybe, you still have a few things to cover in the next other 2 verses. If you want to spend about 5 minutes, I think we are going to have only Kirtan after the talk. Is it possible for you to speak for a couple of more minutes? What remained in your
Sure. There's
thought?
at least one more verse that remained. But you know what? I would love to, before we go there, I would love to open up for any questions or comments about anything that we discussed today. And any observations, clarifications, anything at all.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes.
I am an aspiring devotee, and I just find that just by doing a little devotional work takes away all stress, takes away all, and just makes Krishna more attractive. And even if I don't follow the regulations perfectly.
Beautiful. Thank you for saying that. And when you said that, when you were speaking, I just felt how connected to Krishna you are through that. And that's beautiful. I can say honestly for myself that many days, even as I think I'm following the regulative principles, I don't feel the same presence of Krishna in my life that I felt when you were sharing what you shared. What's your name?
Guy.
Thank you so much, Guy. Really appreciate it. Anybody else? Anything that you wanted to share? Okay, so then I will cater to Guru Prasad Prabhu's request and just read the next verse, and then we can close. Is that all right, Guru Prasad Prabhu?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the next verse is Ataita dabhyasaktosi kartum madyogamashitaha sarva karma phalatyagam tatha kuru yatatmavan. If, however, you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for the full moon day, and there is special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually. And in that purified state of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 1846, we find it is stated, Yataha pravittir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the Supreme Cause, even if he does not know that the Supreme Cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Cause by the sacrificial method. I think this is such a, again, amazing purport. Where many times we think about Srila Prabhupada, and when we look at some charity work, we actually say, oh, Prabhupada did not approve of charity work, or Prabhupada did not approve of certain things. And there is truth to it, in the sense Prabhupada did not consider charity work as a substitute for Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada was very, and this purport is so clear what Prabhupada is saying. He's saying, in that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's own country may be accepted, so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And this is the key here. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, one will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method. So I can speak for myself. I was a big patriot for my country. And there was a spirit in me where I would actually think about laying down my life for my country. I had very deep respect for the national flag, and I was looking for ways to actually sacrifice for something that was beyond my own life. And I can see how it affected me, because it made the principle of sacrifice and service such a big thing. And then eventually, when I met the devotees, things became very clear. So Prabhupada is saying here that if one is sacrificing, thinking that something is the supreme cause, it's important to actually see that eventually the person, if encouraged properly, can come to the platform of Krishna consciousness, because there is a spirit of sacrifice that needs to be very deeply appreciated. So I wanted to end there. Surendra Prabhu, you had something? Okay. So thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity, for sharing the Bhagavad Gita and participating actively. I was very encouraged by your participation, and I feel very purified and enlivened by this conversation. So thank you all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rasanath Prabhu. I am so glad that I didn't give you a specific theme, because I would have constrained you by giving a theme. So now that turned out to be all right that I didn't give you a theme, because you have expanded very nicely so many points by coming up with your own choice of the verses. So thank you for this endeavor, and you clarified so many things, and at the same time you have inspired many of us to have a fresh look all the time in reading Bhagavad Gita, because we should not look at, oh, this verse I already read last time. So we have to have the attitude of what is in there I missed last time when I read this verse, or when I read this purport. So we shall always have a fresh look at what Prabhupada says. I'm sure we'll learn more and more and enrich our life in this way, and become inspired in following the process of devotional service. Thank you again for accepting the invitation. I know how busy you are. So it's just nice that you kindly considered to be our guest again. So anyway, the new year is yet to start. So we hope that we'll see you again in new year also. So please remember our request in advance. So, all right, thank you. Now you ended very nicely in this verse. That's actually a segue for what is to come. Please, all of you pay attention, because I'm going to call Mandalaram Prabhu to tell us about live to give, consistent
Hare
with what we just
Krishna.
discussed.
Hare Krishna. And Rasanath Prabhu, he summed it up so nicely in that last purport where Srila Prabhupada was saying that different sacrificial methods. And this is another sacrifice and a method that the devotees can perform, which we're performing a big yajna, where we're all investing in it, and it benefits the entire world, which we have the honor of having Vaisheshika Prabhu. Most of the devotees may know him, but he's the global outreach coordinator for ISKCON, and he's transforming the Krishna consciousness movement because of his sincerity to share Krishna consciousness with others. And we have a video by him, the first one ever directed to ISKCON Ottawa and expanding to Montreal as well. So we just have a little short clip, and we'd love for all the devotees to, really invest their attention into it, and also support the endeavor in which he's on the forefront of, and which pleases Srila Prabhupada so much. So I think we can show the video now if we have that. I think Ilya Prabhu will share it right now.
Yes, Prabhu. Just give me a minute.
Vaisheshika Prabhu is from ISKCON of Silicon Valley, which is in California, and he's really at the forefront of our preaching outlets within ISKCON, and he makes so many wonderful new expansions to our outreach programs, which enlivens the devotees to participate, and really helps devotees in this aspect of devotional service, where we can give towards the Krishna consciousness movement and help others come closer to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and to hear the message of Krishna. So whenever we have that, we're all waiting in anticipation.
Yes, Prabhu. Just a minute. Sorry for that. Is it coming?
Yes, Prabhu, put it on full screen.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees in Ottawa and Montreal, my obeisances to you. Now we're in the middle of a global campaign. Yes, I know, there's a pandemic going on. But guess what? Devotees everywhere are rising above it, using the telephone, the internet, innovating by collecting donations, through which they're sponsoring not just thousands, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bhagavad Gitas all over the world. The global goal is 2 million. And on every continent, devotees, leaders, everyone in lockstep is going towards that goal. We need Ottawa and Montreal. Please organize, set a goal, pray hard, and do your level best to methodically distribute and reach your goals. This will be a huge contribution to North America. Everyone can do their little bit or a lot. Just let it come from your heart. Thank you very much for giving your heart and soul to the Live to Give Marathon. 2 million Bhagavad Gitas all over the world.
So this is the Live to Give Marathon, where devotees have been sponsoring boxes of Bhagavad Gitas, and we send out a sincere prayer for and assistance from the devotees. Anyone who's able to and in a position to give and sponsor for boxes of Bhagavad Gitas. We've been placing them all over Ottawa in hospitals, yoga studios, bookstores. We're getting into hospices and continuing the outreach. So we kindly ask for any devotees who are able to contribute. We'd be eternally indebted, and Srila Prabhupada would be extremely pleased. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, on that account, I think we are making good progress, but it'll be nice. There are people who can volunteer to sponsor the case of Bhagavad Gita just for $150. So in Bhagavad Gita, actually, Krishna says, whoever helps someone else to understand the message of Bhagavad Gita, he is very dear to him. So let's do a little bit, whatever we can. If it is too much, join with a friend, and together you contribute 150. So please consider and participate in this global marathon so we can achieve the goal set for Ottawa. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And again, you can contact Mandalaram Prabhu, or just write to ISKCON@gmail.com. You will get immediate response, and we'll tell you how you can go about it. All right. Okay. Now I would request devotees who can do the short key.
Guess Guru Prasad cut out. Maybe a short kirtan.
Kirtan, Jai. Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasarine Vishesha Sunyavadi Prastitya Visitane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki. Shairam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivachari Srila Shishmad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki. And Bhakti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki. Shri Prem Se Gahor Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.